And good morning, One Life. Jeff Bowles here with you as your host. Thank you again for joining us on the call. We'd like to take this opportunity to go ahead and wish all of you a happy Thanksgiving. I know that we have Thanksgiving coming up in just the next, 3 days or so. Some of us celebrating a little early, so we'll go ahead and wish you all a very, very happy Thanksgiving to you and your family throughout this season. We are thankful for you. Hopefully you're thankful for us as well. And we'll not waste too terribly much time in introducing a couple of folks that we have on the call today. We're going to have Mr. Javier Rodriguez out of Lakeland, Florida. He's going to be with us as our featured speaker. And this morning, for our morning's devotion, we're going to have Mr. Reid. He's been very, very busy getting some things together with some stuff with church and with his family and different stuff that he's had going on this weekend. But he's still found a way to give us just a little bit of his time this morning. So we'll bear with him just a little bit. He said he's got a few things that he's thought about sharing this morning, and he's going to pick one and go with it. So I'll go ahead and introduce him formally and officially now. Rod's been with One Life for over 10 years now, if I'm not mistaken. He just over 10 years. He helps manage one of the most rapidly growing groups in our organization for 6 years straight. Check this. Ron has qualified for either our President's or Leaders Club, which is an amazing feat. It goes to show you that he's one of the top, not only top producers, but most consistent producers we have here at One Life. Speaking of that, last year he wrote just shy of 200,000 worth of annual volume, yet still found a way to be one of the top agents in business quality for not only One Life, but for all of Forrester's Life as well. Of course, Forrester's is an international company, and so that's quite a feat there. To sum it up, the soles of this man's shoes are probably worn down. I've said it before. They're probably worn down from walking across the stage so much at our annual awards banquets each year. Finally, Ron is not only a stellar agent, he's also generally regarded as an overall nice guy. He and his wife, Stephanie, have 3 beautiful children. I'd like to now make welcome Mr. Ron Reid as our devotional speaker. Ron, thank you for being on the call.
Thank you, Jeff. You're way too kind. Guys, I've put together some stuff this morning, and I may stumble through it a bit. I'm not as prepared as I'd like to be, but we just got to I need to do a better job, just like everybody else, of leaning on God's plans for us and knowing that He'll see us through. So hopefully what I share with you this morning is something you need to hear. I want to talk about, are we listening to God's instructions? You see, I know me, when I started, and most of us when we started in the insurance business, some trainer or manager shared with us that the plan for success, the One Life plan. You see, God does the same thing. He shares with us His plans for successes. Now, God's success is a little different from ours. It's the growth of His kingdom. That's His successes. And God does share with us. He points us in the directions He wants us to go. Now, some may say, wait a minute. God doesn't share anything with me. I've never heard God's voice. And, I haven't either. I've never heard the audible voice of God. But there are definitely times, myself and most anybody out there, if you're willing to admit it, you'll feel an overwhelming urge to reach out to somebody. If it's just, give somebody a smile and a nod and say, hi, how's your day today? Or God loves you. Something just that simple. But you'll feel that urge to reach out to people. Now that's God speaking to you, wanting you to do His work. There's a lot of responses that we can have when God prompts us. And I have to admit I'm guilty of offering all 3 of these. The first response I want to talk about is the response of Jonah. And the response of Jonah, for those of you that don't know and that do know, Jonah was a response of, you can just say no. I'm not going to do it. I don't want any part of that. I'm out. And, in the book of Jonah, you find that God's asking Jonah to go down to Nineveh and share with the people there because their wickedness had come up before him. And Jonah says, those people in Nineveh, those are some rough characters. God, here I am, but no, that's a little much for me. I'm out. So no, I'm not going to do that. So, those that don't know, most of us do know how that ended up for Jonah, and it wasn't real well. Jonah runs down to the port, jumps on a ship, trying to sail in the opposite direction of where God was trying to get him to go. And a big storm came, and the sailor said, okay, you got to go before our boat sinks. And off into the belly of the fish, Jonah went, and he had some time to spend there. And so that's one option. We can be like Jonah and say, no, we're not going to do it, God. Even though you want me to, I'm not going to do it. We can have the response of Moses. We'll talk about that for a minute. So we can just say no, that's one option. The response of Moses, when I hear Moses went back and forth with God when he wanted him to go back and get the Israelites out of Egypt and break them free from slavery. And Moses' response reminds me of one that I've used, and it's, hey, wait a minute, I don't think I'm qualified for that. You need to use somebody else. So in Exodus chapter 3, verses 9, let me find it here. Like I said, y'all have to bear with me. It says, and now the cry of the Israelites has reached me. I've seen the way the Egyptians are oppressing them. So now, go. I'm sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? And they go back and forth for quite a bit there. And then Exodus chapter 4, verse 10, Moses said to the Lord, pardon your servant, Lord. I have never been eloquent, neither in the past, nor since you have spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and tongue. The Lord said to him, in Exodus 4, chapter 4, verse 11, who gave human beings their mouths? Who makes them deaf or mute? Who gives them sight or makes them blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you speak and will teach you what to say. So basically Moses is saying, maybe you ought to find somebody else. So we got Jonah. The Lord prompted him to do his work. He says no. Moses says, I think you better find somebody else. And then last I want to talk about Isaiah. Now in Isaiah chapter 6, starting with verse 1, I'm going to read to you there. All right, Isaiah chapter 6, verse 1. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord. So Isaiah saw the Lord, high and exalted, seated on the throne. And the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him were seraphim. Each with 6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces, and 2 they covered their feet. And they were flying with the other set of wings. And they called to one another, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory. At the sound of their voices, the doorpost and the threshold shook, and the temple was filled with smoke. Woe to me, I cried. I am ruined. This is Isaiah. He says, I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips. I live among people of unclean lips. My eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty. Then one seraphim flew to me, to Isaiah, with a coal, a live coal in his hand. He'd taken with the tongs from the altar. He touched Isaiah's mouth with it and said, See, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away, your sin atoned for. Then Isaiah heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send? Who will go for us? And Isaiah said, Here I am, send me. Every week we're out and about. Some people just need to hear that God loves them, and they need to hear that He's here for us. He's willing to forgive us. He's willing to use each and every one of us. All we've got to do is not be like Jonah and say, nope, not me, or not be like Moses and argue with him and say, I think you ought to send somebody else because I'm not capable. But yet you can be like Isaiah. We can all realize that we've all been forgiven. We've all been pardoned. And God can use each and every one of us to share his good news. So let's be like Isaiah. If you're prompted, God opens that door. Walk through it. Share His love this week and in the weeks to come as we're out there and about.
Absolutely. It's great. You mind praying over us real quick, Ron?
I will be glad to. Heavenly Father, I just thank you so much for your goodness, for your grace. Father, thank you that you can use a broken individual, just like myself, all of us, to help grow your kingdom, to bring people to know that you love us, that you care for us. Father, this week as we are out, I just pray that you would guide us to do your work and your will. Father, help us to be successful and keep us safe. And Father, help everyone to have a good time, a good Thanksgiving holiday together, Father. Help us to enjoy our fellowship. And Father, just help us to do your will. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Ron, thanks for being on the call, man. Always glad to have some of our very own people do the devotion. You know, there's a lot of people at different organizations and companies that they have to bring somebody in to do a devotion, quite honestly. Not to say that, you know, a lot of these other organizations don't have believers there, but we certainly have some that aren't afraid to share, that aren't afraid to pray, that aren't afraid to pour their hearts out and their lives out. Guys like Ron, I've seen him with his agents. He really does give up himself to the people around him, to his downline, to his team. And there's something to be said about that and about that type of person. And so it's an honor to have guys like Ron on the call. We've got another gentleman very much like him that has a terrific team and is known as a team player here at One Life, Mr. Javier Rodriguez, coming up in just a few minutes. Before we do that, we want to get to our production and marketing update so we can get those numbers out to you. We've continued to have really good numbers over this last quarter. This particular week, for the week of 11/7 through 11/11, numbers just a little bit down, $713,307 for all of One Life. For our teams, we'll start at number 5 on the top 5 list team report. Number 5 is Diversified with $39,319. At number 4, Legacy United out of Lakeland, which Mr. Javier is a part of, with $42,280. Ron, I got some good news for you. Between the competition of you and your group and Ron's group, looks like you just got the edge on those guys for this week that we're talking about here. 11/7 through 11/11. Team Meridian came in with $51,293. Of course, that's your team, and also a team with Ken Jr. and those guys included in there as well. At number 2, had Life Management Group out of Opelika, Alabama, with $74,109. At number 1, Innovative Insurance Brokers, as always, at the top of the list, $124,482 for the Team of the Week, Innovative Insurance Brokers. We'll move now to our individual agents. We'll have the top 10 list and the agent of the week. At number 10, Dimitri Dardis with $6,675 submitted AP. Steve Thornton, also out of the Florida office, works there with Javier. He came in with $6,707 of submitted AP. At number 8, Jose Gonzalez Jr., $6,876 submitted AP. Number 7, Charles Saltzman, $6,915. At number 6, Aziz Aditamiran, I believe is the way you pronounce that, Aziz Aditamiran Jr. I went over it several times before we actually did the call this morning to try to do my best to pronounce it correctly. So Aziz, if I'm still not doing it quite right, feel free to give me a call and let me know. At number 6, Aziz came in with $7,177. For the top half of the list, Reginald Sarpong, with $7,201, or Sarpong, $7,201 for Reginald. Number 4, Timothy Smith, $7,480. Number 3, Kristen Goodman, $7,511. Number 2 on the list, out of Jackson, Mississippi, Scott Watkins, $8,394. And number 1, the agent of the week, Kayla Chavez, with $13,778 worth of submitted annualized premium. Now to our marketing update quickly. If you don't know already, you're going to find out right now. We'll certainly let you know. One of our most notable things we do here at One Life is our academies. and also the different things that we'll do for leadership. We're going to combine those two now, and the time is here to register for the fourth quarter One Life Academy. The way we're going to do it, for the first day, we're going to have a leadership day where all of the agents and managers and insurance companies will be welcome to attend. We're going to have some top speakers. We're going to have a really nice location to hold that first day. And then we'll have breakout sessions the 6th through the 7th. So we'll start on December 5th. We'll go through the 7th. Make sure you register as soon as possible at onelifeamerica.com. Simply click on the Academy tab and register today. And so we're going to continue with doing this, what we're actually calling the entirety of the entire training sessions, and also the leadership day there on the first day. We're calling all of it the Academy now. So make sure you go and register for the One Life Academy. Also, if you haven't seen our Monday Slam with our very own Ted DiBiase Jr., check it out. Immediately following the call this morning, those have been spectacular thus far. Teddy, if you're on the call, thank you for what you're doing for us here at One Life. And now we'll move on to our featured speaker for the call this morning, Mr. Javier Rodriguez. Javier has been with One Life for 17 years this year. He's been a top 10 producing agent every year for at least the past 10 years when we've been keeping up with the numbers as we do now. He's a 3-time Agent of the Year recipient. He's now a regional director out of our Lakeland, Florida office with his group. And he and his wife, Katie, have 3 beautiful kids together. I'd like to make welcome to the call now Mr. Javier Rodriguez. Javier, you there with us?
I'm here. Thank you
Absolutely.
for the kind words. I wasn't sure when I was going to be unmuted till I heard it. So I wasn't sure if it was unmuted already or not. But anyway, I want to thank Ron for the devotional this morning. It definitely is eye-opening, and to some degree kind of segues into what I had prepared, because I think listening is part of one of our biggest, I would say, biggest problems as an agent, the biggest weight that we carry, and listening to God and listening to management, and listening to what's going on around us, and listening to the client that's sitting across from you at the table is key in sales. It's great to have a wonderful presentation and an eye-opening presentation and an involved presentation, but if you're not listening at all, when I get across from a client, I am absolutely 100%. I got 2 wheels turning. One's, I'm speaking, and the other one I'm capturing what's happening across. And what I prepared for us today is basically discussing some of the common mistakes that new agents make that really hinder their success. And one of the biggest things is, and it all revolves around the word assume. And we all know what assume means, but the word assume is a very dangerous word in this business, because it really affects and impacts heavily how your week's going to turn out. And as we all know, assumptions don't always turn out to be what we thought they would be. So a lot of agents, one of the first assumptions, they assume that they can get their appointments done later that day. I have them come in this office, and agents hate to get on the phone. And don't blame them. It's not my favorite part of the business. For years, when I first started here, 17, like you said, plus years ago, we got on the phone. I mean, that was just part of the business. You have to go out there with a track to run on. And if you don't have any appointments, you don't have any track to run on, it's kind of hard to have a successful week when you don't have a track that you need to be on. So you can easily assume it's lunchtime. Well, I'll get on at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and somebody calls you and you get caught up in that conversation, and then you assume you can get on at 4 o'clock and get something done. And pretty soon it's 7 o'clock at night, and you just assume from 7 to 9 o'clock you can get a full day the next day. Get on the phone. Get your stuff done early. We used to get on the phone. I remember driving to Miami, and it was one of the areas that we really did not care to work as much, simply because, again, is the Hispanic market is a tough market. And it's 4 hours from where I'm sitting here right now. So we would get in the car, and we would drive first thing Monday morning. We'd be heading down there, and we would check into a hotel. And this is before Priceline, before any of the stuff. It wasn't as simple as getting on and booking a room. You literally got down to the area and you had a coupon book that I remember cutting them out, and me and the agents would get together and we'd go down there. We'd split rooms, and those habits haven't changed a lot for some people, but you still go out and split rooms and so forth. But getting down to the area, and we'd be on the phone, all day. So assumptions are dangerous. They assume next week will be as good as the current week. I have had agents that have just a blowout week. And although we like that, and that's a great thing, your income obviously goes up, your bottom line goes up, everything is wonderful. But when you assume that you knocked it out of the park this week, and this business has the potential to rattle your cage and shake you up and give you a taste of reality, you can find out with a quick hurry that you can have 2 bad weeks after a great week. And in this business, it always balances out. Eventually, the good and the bad mix together if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. There's a reason why I've been in the industry for 21 plus years, 17 of them here, because you can turn negative into positive. And part of what I have prepared for the academy, for the session that I'm going to do, but you need to be able to budget your money. When you go out there and you write a bunch of business and you have money coming in and everything's great, don't assume the next week's going to be just like that. It absolutely impacts you when you're not prepared, not just with appointments and not just with material, not just with the ability to get out and see people and make a living, but your finances have to be in line because they have the ability to impact your mind while you're out there. Part of what impacts people's budget and money and how well the week or the day is going to go is they assume they can plan their day in the morning. My habit still yet today, I'm here and talking to you guys, I already prepared everything today because Thanksgiving week I decided I was going to get out in the field for a couple of appointments today, which normally I'm sitting here at my desk all day doing stuff, but I decided, it's a short week with Thanksgiving being there. Thursday's typically a work day for me. I routed everything last night. I'm already prepared. When I leave this conference call, I can literally jump in my car and my leaves are separated. My day's mapped out. I use Streets and Trips, which is something I wish they still had available to everybody. Microsoft kind of did away with that. You can still find that program out there, but any type of a mapping system, people use Waze. Know the layout of the land. Know where you're going. Know that you have a 45-minute drive between appointment 2 and appointment 3, so you can kind of make up that time somehow. So they assume they can just plan everything in the morning, and in the morning, there's problems with the kids, and one misses the school bus, and you got to get them to school, or for whatever reason, that's the one day that your car decides it's not going to start because the battery went out, and you have to run out to a station over here to get a battery put in your car. And I mean, you name it, I've seen it. I've done this enough years that I've seen things come through when I didn't expect it. Then they assume chargebacks aren't going to come. It goes back to budgeting your money. I've had 3 great weeks, and all of a sudden it's like, you expect the 4th and the 5th week to roll on by trouble-free. Folks, chargebacks come. They hit. They have a tendency to have an impact. They can wipe you out for a little while. You have to be prepared for those things. Again, this business, the good outbalances the bad always if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, but you have to be prepared. You can't jump into this business and expect you're going to take off running with both feet and not have any issues. And that's what runs so many of new agents, out of the business because they're poor planners. You have to be a planner in this business. You have to really think of all the details the day before. This business has a lot of moving parts, and no, you're not going to be an expert at every aspect of it right away. And even now, 17 years here and several prior to coming here, I still have my challenges like everybody else has. Every week isn't a fantastic week, but they balance. But I make sure that when I get up in the morning, I have my day planned. And if I don't and things don't go well, I'm the one to blame. You have to be prepared. You have to kind of plan and you have to budget, for the toughest weeks. And you have to prepare for what could be a difficult quarter. That is essential to being able to stay in this business. That's the one thing we've not talked a whole lot about. We always talk about how to run appointments. We always talk about, how to be out there, how to be effective, and rebuttals, and all that is good. But I also think, I know, and I've seen agents leave this industry, not just here, but in various other places, because I have friends all over the place in this industry. And 9 times out of 10 is when hard times hit, they're not prepared. And sometimes that is one of the biggest things that you could do, is just sit back and look at your life and see exactly where the waste is and where you can tighten up till you get to a point where you're very, very comfortable. And yeah, you can definitely go out and enjoy the finer things in life. I mean, it's one of the questions an agent asked me, because I stress this to them. So, what is the point of working hard if you can't have a boat and you can't have... I'm for everybody having everything they want to have, but when you're ready and you're prepared for a particular debt or for a particular situation. If you don't have the ability to put gas in your car, I mean, you have no business being in a boat dealership, to be perfectly honest with you, because the business is what pays for that boat and pays for the expensive sports car, or whatever your drive is. You really have to look at your life when you're in a commission business, not just in the insurance industry, but all the way around. I don't care if you family that is in real estate. I have 2 of my family members that are very successful in the real estate business here locally where I'm at. But they're good planners. They don't close on a house every week. Sometimes there's dry spells. They prepare for that. This business is the same. Sometimes, the leads don't respond the way you want them to. Sometimes the appointments don't come through the way you like for them to come. You need to be able to be, to a degree, pressure and carefree, that you can continue to move on and move forward without having the challenges and the issues of the pressure of how am I going to get out there the next week. And that's what pushes people out the door, is they're not prepared. A lot of them, they assume that plugging into a meeting or being a fly on the wall with an experienced agent, when you have the ability to do that, the academies that we host, the conference calls that we're on right now, they can't make any money. They're always chasing that next application. We call them app chasers. I have them come through here that, they have the best intentions in mind. Their idea is they'll get out there on a Saturday and a Sunday and whatever hours of the day or night, and I'll work 3 very, very long days, and I have no beefs about it. I put in 110% when I'm out there. But you have to have time to unwind. That's one of the perks of this business, is you don't have somebody breathing down your neck telling you have to do this or you have to do that. You have the ability that you can be carefree to a degree, just be responsible with what you're doing. It is important that you absorb information from the people around you, that you're available to listen in on whether it's conference calls or meetings from time to time. When you have a monthly meeting where you're at, or whether you guys do a weekly or quarterly, or every office has their own habits, I've found, you definitely want to make sure that you're available to the best of your ability. I know that's production time that people feel they're not out there. They're not out there producing. They're losing money, and that's not necessarily true. The very mistakes that you're making that are keeping you from producing could be the very things that are covered and discussed in those meetings or those conference calls, the academy, any number of things that we do here to help the agents out and make sure that they have the tools they need to be successful, because we don't succeed without you. Every home office employee depends on production coming in. Every manager, if you're going to be a manager and run a group, you absolutely need to have productivity coming in, or you're just out there producing with everybody else. You want to grow a productive group. You want your agents to be successful. You want them to grow. So you want to put the tools in their hands. But if you guys are never available, never around to gather up this information, to absorb it, it doesn't do you a bit of good. We had a very productive meeting here last Friday. It was just us. It was very informal. We had, 19 or 20 or so show up. And it was basically a meeting of, housekeeping and seeing what's going on in the field, what challenges people are having. And, everybody that shows up typically leaves with something. I've been in this industry long enough that people think that, I can't learn from a new agent, and that's not true. I put agents in my car on an ongoing basis, and I'll bet you there's not one time that I don't learn something from them, whether it's a habit that I think is good, something I can tweak with what I'm doing to be more successful, or to pass on to the rest of the crew that I think would be a productive meeting for them. But if you're not taking the time to sit in and you're not applying, that's another thing that I stress during the meeting, is we can sit up here and talk all day long, but if you're not taking notes, you're not applying what you think applies to you to better yourself, meetings are useless. You're just going to sit, you're going to listen, you're going to leave, and if you're just going to show your face just to say that you were present, take advantage of those meetings. Everybody knows in every office which agents are successful and which agents are doing well. Steve Thornton is one of my agents here at the office. He's a great agent. He definitely has a ton of knowledge. Mark Hamilton is another one here that I have all new agents typically, take a look at what he's doing. He's in a way, to some degree, newer, but not really new anymore. But he's definitely been around the block. He's seen it. He is effective. Try to absorb from those guys. And you have Steve Thorntons and Mark Hamiltons in every office. And then they assume that their manager always has all the answers for them. I can't tell you how many agents always feel when they're not being successful that they're being ignored, or there's something more that their manager could do, should do, must do. Let me tell a little bit about me. When I got here in this business back, 17 years ago here at this office, because I came from the insurance business, but it was a different layout where I was. I was out in the field for literally a half a day with an agent who was very successful at the time. I saw the layout, I saw what he did, and when I got home that day, I made a determination what I had to do to make it. And that meant being up studying, being product knowledge every night. I was up till 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, developing a presentation that was effective. Because at the end of the day, when your bills don't get paid, it isn't someone else's fault. If you're not looking at yourself and seeing what you can do, what tools you can take that have been given to you to be effective, you're absolutely missing the boat. I could do 100 conference calls. It ain't going to help. So you absolutely need to make sure that you look at yourself and see what changes you need to make. I have agents I've had come in here, and I sit with them and I ask them, okay, what do you think the issue is? And the ones that have succeeded have point blank told me, I don't think I'm doing enough. They didn't say Mark or Steve or one of the managers out here isn't taking the time to talk to me or identify issues, and not to say that that's not the issue. It wouldn't be addressed. We'll sit down and have a conversation, but trust me, 9 times out of 10, they know they didn't stay out late enough. They didn't go to that last call. They got discouraged and left the field. They didn't get on the phone and make their calls. They assumed. Again, that's a dangerous word. And next thing you know, you're 3 weeks assuming things, and things aren't panning out. But you're not looking at what's going on around you with these guys and what's making them successful. When week after week after week, you look at an agent that's got over $200,000 of annualized premiums submitted for the year, and you're sitting at $50,000, and you've been here the same amount of time, running the same leads. Obviously, there is something that is not happening or clicking, and no matter where you want to put the blame, if you don't look at yourself and try to fix your issues that you have internally and try to see what you can tweak, what you can work on, what are you missing the boat on, what are you not studying? Is your product knowledge out? Are you having issues? Because we're not mind readers either. When an agent comes in and says, I'm having a challenge with this particular issue, we sit down and we iron it out to the best of our ability. And I put them back in the car if I need to. But that's how you fix issues. And probably one of the biggest things in closing that I'll say is this. When you feel, as I say, the ship is sinking, fix it. You will have issues wherever you wind up. You leave here or you left somewhere else to be here. If you don't fix yourself and fix what issues you're having, ultimately 9 times out of 10 that agent will fail wherever he or she goes, whether you stay in the business or completely get ran out of it. You have to look at yourself and you got to see where the issue lies, and you have to fix it. This is a 1099 business. Yes, we want you to succeed. There's a reason why I'm not in the field. I'm on a conference call today, and we do these meetings here, and we have these academies, and we drive from here 12 hours up there and try to get agents there because we feel the effort is worth it. That gives everybody an opportunity to do what they need to do without necessarily choking on the problems that they're having. But if you don't come and say, here are my issues, let me work with you, we don't always know that you're having a problem. So again, in recap, the word assume, be very, very careful. Prepare yourself. Don't assume anything. Make sure that you are on top of your game. When you feel you're having challenges with your presentation, get with your manager. Get with somebody. If I'm up in Meridian and you're not from this office and there's anything I can do to help you, I'm always open. My cell phone number is all over the place. I have friends everywhere in this company, the ones that I talk to on an ongoing basis daily, and some that we just see each other at events, and always glad to help. And anybody I've got here that works with me here in this office has the same attitude. So please let us know if we can do anything for you. Stay on top of your game. Don't assume things. Plan your route, your day, plan your week. Take all the obstacles out of the way, because there's enough obstacles in just getting in front of someone and making a sale. You have to be a salesman in this business. We know that. Let that be your only obstacle, not the obstacles of what I call obstacles of stupidity, unpreparedness, not knowing where you're headed and what you're doing and how you're going to get there. So, and that's basically all I've got.
Javier, thank you so much for being on the call. We'd love to have you back again real soon. And again, y'all have a great thing going on down there in Lakeland. So we appreciate you taking time out of your busy day. Again, as you mentioned, scheduling us into your day. Thank you so much for doing that. We'll look forward to having you on the call real soon.
Thank you very much. Hope everybody has a good holiday.
Absolutely. You too, man. We'll take the opportunity now again to wish all of you a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for being on the call yet again this week. We look forward to a wonderful and blessed Thanksgiving holiday, and we hope you all have a wonderful week.